Heartwarming encounter. Maid covers 3 shifts and discovers an incredible single dad CEO in need. The rain poured like confetti from the heavens, celebrating an unexpected encounter that was about to change lives. Sarah, a 32-year-old maid, donned her stained uniform and rushed through the downpour, her heart pounding in her chest. Each raindrop mirrored her relentless determination as she headed to the luxurious Golden Oak Hotel for her 3rd shift of the day. Little did she know, fate had a surprise waiting around the corner. Inside the gleaming hotel lobby, she bustled between polished marble floors and chandeliers that glittered like distant stars. With every scrub and sweep, she thought of her ailing mother, whose health was like a fragile porcelain doll, ready to crack at any moment. And then there was Mia, her spirited 7-year-old daughter, who lit up her world despite the shadow of their struggles. The weight of bills loomed over her like dark clouds, but Sarah pressed on, fueled by love and resilience. As thunder rumbled above, Sarah caught sight of Jake, the hotel's CEO. Just weeks out of the shadows of loss, Jake was a man caught in a storm of his own, managing corporate chaos and a precocious daughter, Lily, who longed for her father's attention. Their gaze locked for a moment, the world around them faded, and a spark flickered, 2 lives intersecting beneath the heavy gray sky. Sometimes, it feels like the weight of the world is too much to bear, she admitted, her voice barely audible over the rain tapping against the glass. I know that feeling, he replied, a bittersweet smile breaking through his stoic expression. Initially brief and awkward, their interaction held profound understanding, the kind that only comes from long nights of struggle and quiet longing. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as glances turned to shared laughter, a corporate mishap crashed into their moment. A threat loomed over Jake's company, and the pressure was immense, like cracks forming in their newly shared connection. Sarah felt the weight of social judgment shield her heart, torn between loyalty to her family and her desire to explore a bond that felt so rare. The whispers began, loud enough to hear as they entered the grand hall filled with candlelit shadows. A maid and a CEO? How absurd, someone murmured, igniting an overwhelming chord of unease. The glittering luxury of the hotel no longer felt welcoming, it wrapped around her like an iron grip, stifling hope. In those flickering candlelight moments, their faces faded into uncertainty, and their hearts raced with an unspoken fear of the impending storm outside, a storm that mirrored the tempest within. Will society allow their bond to flourish, or will the pressures of their world tear them apart? With emotions unraveling in the air, one question lingered: can love thrive amidst the rubble of societal judgment and personal sacrifice? As the evening wore on, Sarah could feel the eyes of the crowd pricking at her, like needles of doubt. The lavish decorations of the hall faded into the background, overshadowed by the mental weight of being a maid amidst a sea of elegance. She picked up her cleaning cart and pushed it gently, hyper-aware of her faded uniform against the tailored suits and glittering dresses. Jake sensed her tension. He leaned in slightly, breaking the invisible barrier their roles had created. You know, the rain has a way of washing things clean, he said, attempting to lighten the mood. His voice was rich, warm, and felt like a textural comfort against the icy chill of the judgment surrounding them. Sarah glanced up, catching the warmth in his eyes. For a moment, the chaos around faded. I hope it washes away more than just the dirt, she replied with a small smile, feeling a flicker of hope stir within her. Lily, Jake's daughter, darted toward them then, her small figure illuminated by the golden light strung around the ballroom. Daddy! Can we get ice cream after this? She asked, bouncing with energy. The innocence in her voice melted some of the barriers built in the moments prior. Of course, sweetheart. We'll grab some on our way home, he replied, kneeling beside her. For a fleeting instant, Sarah watched as the pressure on Jake's face lifted. Swallowed by love for his daughter, he became just a dad who wanted to make his little girl happy. It suddenly felt possible that beneath the company struggles, there was space for shared joy. "Can I have ice cream too?" Sarah blurted out, half playful, half serious. Laughter erupted between the three of them like a pop of confetti, easing the tension that had felt so thick moments before. "Sure. The more, the merrier." Jake responded, a hint of surprise in his tone. Was it the abruptness of her humor? Or perhaps the tiny bridge they had built with that shared laughter? Whatever it was, Sarah felt it crack a little more of the shell she had wrapped around herself. But as soon as the laughter subsided, the stares returned. A group of guests whispered among themselves, casting disapproving glances. Moments like these, where warmth and kindness battled against societal constraints, seemed both to flourish and struggle in this setting. Jake shifted uncomfortably, the momentary reprieve breaking under the weight of expectations. "I should check in with my team," he said, putting a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. He glanced back at Sarah, uncertainty etched across his handsome features. "We should talk more soon." Her heart raced again, caught in an unpredictable dance between hope and fear. "Yes, I'd like that," she managed to say. But as he walked away, the worries came crashing back to her mind, suffocating the warm moments they shared with shadows of doubt. While wiping down the tables, Sarah's thoughts spiraled. Could they truly find happiness, or was she simply a fleeting moment in his life, a spark before reality snuffed it out? She thought of Mia, her daughter, who deserved a world filled with dreams, not the painful hurdles Sarah faced daily. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from her mother's healthcare provider. "We need to discuss your mother's treatment options." Her heart sank deep. Balancing between hope for her future and the inevitable responsibilities that weighed her down felt volcanic. As the night drew to an end and the guests began to exit, Sarah stood momentarily frozen. Whoever said being a maid was just about cleaning was oblivious to the emotional mess that came with it. Would they find a way to bridge the gap between their worlds, or would societal judgments drown out their budding connection? The rain continued outside, each drop a reminder of everything that hung in the balance. Tomorrow, another shift awaited, but would she see him again? That was the question lingering in her heart, igniting a flame of curiosity that felt too bright to ignore. What if this was just the beginning of something extraordinary? As the last of the guests trickled out, the atmosphere in the grand ballroom shifted. The constant thrum of laughter and conversation faded, replaced by the quiet rustle of cleaning supplies. Sarah pushed her cart toward the corner, her heart still racing from the brief connection with Jake. She could feel the distance between their worlds pulling at her, heavy as the dark clouds swirling outside. With a sigh, she grabbed a rag and began to wipe down the tables one last time. Each grain of dust felt like a reminder of her place in the world, as they settled like a fog over her mind. She looked at the empty seats, at the extravagant centerpieces and the glimmering remnants of a night filled with wealth and status. What did it look like to them, to the guests, when they caught a glimpse of her wiping tables? "Sarah?" A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. Startled, she turned to find Mia's school principal, Mrs. Thompson, standing nearby. Her face was etched with concern. "I was just checking on how your mother has been. I know things have been tough." "Oh, Sarah stumbled, rummaging for a polite response. "She's holding on, I guess." She offered a weak smile, but Mrs. Thompson didn't seem convinced. "You know, if you need any help or resources, don't hesitate to reach out. The community is here for you." There was genuine warmth in her voice, and it struck a chord inside Sarah. A small part of her felt grateful, but another part recoiled, filled with shame. "Thank you," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. It felt both comforting and suffocating to be reminded that people cared. Before Mrs. Thompson could say more, Jake re-entered the ballroom. His demeanor was more serious now, urgency evident in how he held himself. Sarah's heart raced again, but for a different reason. "Hey, there you are," he said, approaching her with quick steps. "I, actually wanted to ask if you could stay a little longer tonight." "Stay longer?" she echoed, confusion swirling. "For what?" "There's something I need help with, and I can't manage it alone." He glanced toward the hallway, clearly troubled. "It involves some important files, and you seem organized. I can't face my team looking disarrayed. Not after tonight." Uncertainty gripped her. Staying longer meant delaying her evening with Mia, the babysitting arrangements they had carefully orchestrated. But looking into Jake's eyes, filled with a mix of worry and determination, pulled her closer. Was this an opportunity? "Okay," she answered, though doubt crowded around her. "But only for a little bit." "Great. Thank you." He smiled, relief washing over his features. It transformed his handsome face, making him all the more human in Sarah's eyes. For a fleeting moment, the burdens of the outside world faded. As they worked side by side, gathering papers and tidying up, there were brief moments of silence between them, filled only by the sound of sheets whispering as they were sorted. Sarah focused, savoring the little moments of interaction, how he brushed hands with her as he reached for a stack, the way he offered small, encouraging smiles. "Do you ever think about life outside of all this?" Jake asked suddenly, breaking the quiet. "I mean, for your future?" Staring at him, it dawned on her that she didn't know how to answer. What did she see when she envisioned a future? She often brushed such thoughts aside, shoving them behind the responsibilities grinding her spirit down. "I hope for better days, I guess," she finally replied, her heart thundering with vulnerability. Jake nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Me too." But before Sarah could respond, they were interrupted by the sudden blare of her phone. It was another message from her mother's provider. She couldn't ignore it. "I need to take this," she said quickly, stepping away, her mind racing. As she read the words on the screen, the weight of reality crashed back down. Would she do what needed to be done for her family, or take a chance on something that potentially shattered her fragile world? With her heart still pounding, she turned back toward Jake. Would there be an opening for honesty? For shared dreams? "Jake," she began, unsure of how to navigate this delicate moment. But the truth hung heavy in the air, waiting to be revealed. What if she opened up? What if her desire for connection, her determination to pave a better life for Mia, finally intersected with the possibility of something more? The moment hung between them, heavy with possibilities. Sarah could feel the pulse of her heart, the flutter of uncertainty mixed with hope. She had no idea what she was about to expose about her life, scared that it could lead to rejection or vulnerability. Still, Jake's steady gaze urged her forward. "Jake, she began, but the words found themselves tangled in her throat. She took a shaky breath, reminding herself of the clarity she had when she made the decision to be there tonight. "I'm just trying to juggle everything. My mom isn't doing well, and it's all a bit overwhelming," she confessed, her voice wavering as she fought back the moisture pooling in her eyes. Jake frowned, his expression softening. "That sounds really tough. I can't imagine how hard it is, balancing everything." He stepped closer, his proximity offering a strange comfort amid her turmoil. The space between them seemed to dissolve, allowing an intimacy that felt entirely new. "Most days, it feels like I'm just trying to keep my head above water," she admitted, a wave of relief washing over her as she spoke her truth. "But I've got to be there for Mia. She's my priority." Before she could finish, her phone buzzed again, ripping her back into reality. Sarah glanced at the screen, her heart plummeting. It was a call she had to answer, about medical bills piling up and deadlines looming. "Sorry, just give me a second," she said, raising her hand as she turned away. Taking the call, she felt warmth retreat as cold reality washed over her. "Hello?" she answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Sarah, We need to discuss your mom's care. There are some costs you need to be aware of, the voice on the other end said, clinical and bland. She nodded as if the person could see her. I understand. I'll figure it out. After hanging up, Sarah turned back to Jake, her demeanor changed. The brightness in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by a daunting anxiety. Each call, each bill felt like a weight pressing down, threatening to crush her. Everything okay? Jake asked, concern etched on his face. Not really, it's a lot, she mumbled, moving to pick up papers in a hurry as if that task would somehow distract her from the truth weighing her down. Want to talk about it? You don't have to go through this alone, he urged, stepping closer again, a genuine plea echoing from his words. No, it's fine, she assured, plastering a smile on her face. I just need to handle it. Sarah felt torn between two worlds this moment, with Jake that held warmth and potential, and the cold, unyielding reality of her responsibilities. Deadlines, bills, and the uncertainty of her mother's future loomed large. Jake took a deep breath, his features shifting to something more tender. You know, real strength is not just carrying it all by yourself. It's okay to ask for help. We all need it sometimes. She searched his eyes for sincerity. But how can I ask for help when I feel so lost? When I might just be a distraction in someone's life? That's not true, he said softly. You're not a distraction, your struggles matter. They're part of who you are, and you're worthy of support just like anyone else. The kindness in his voice made something inside her crack. She felt vulnerable, exposed, yet strangely warmed by his understanding. The tension from moments ago began to ease, shifting to something softer. As silence filled the space between them, Sarah realized that she didn't just want to be the woman struggling to hold her life together. She wanted to step into a world where she could share the burden and maybe even find a little joy while doing it. With her heart racing from the newfound bravery, she dared to ask, would you ever consider helping someone like me? I mean, with Mia and everything? Jake opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, the door swung open, and a group of staff members rushed in, electrically shifting the atmosphere in the room. Caught between the lingering promise of connection and the sudden intrusion, Sarah held her breath, waiting to hear what Jake would say. Would he walk away now, or was it too late to go back? The air was thick with unspoken words, and she needed to know what lay ahead. Jake's eyes flicked to the doorway, his expression momentarily distracted as the group swept in with their chatter and urgency. But before Sarah could feel alarmed about being interrupted, Jake turned back to her, his resolve unwavering. Just hold that thought, he whispered, a hint of a smile barely breaking through the tension. She felt the warmth of that brief connection linger, igniting a hope she wasn't sure was still alive. As the staff dispersed to their tasks, Sarah felt a strange mix of embarrassment and relief. She was both exposed and protected by the bustling environment as they navigated around her like leaves in a sudden wind. Jake stepped slightly to the side but didn't fully let go. Her heart pounded with anticipation. Would he remember what she just shared? Or would the chaos swallow their moment? Hey, Sarah! A nurse called out, breaking her thoughts. We're ready for that consultation. She nodded, her stomach churning as she stepped back. I'll be right there, she called out, her voice tinged with the weight of her role. Jake watched her, his brows knitted. Are you okay? I just need to, she started, then hesitated, fearing more vulnerability. The corners of her mouth twitched as she searched for the right words. It's just work, you know how it is. I do, he said slowly, the sincerity of his tone threading through the noise around them. Listen, I'll be here. Don't hesitate if you want to talk more. With those words hanging in the air, Sarah walked toward the consultation room, her heart heavy yet lighter at the same time. The distraction of work pulled her further from their conversation, yet all she could think about was his gentle insistence that asking for help was okay. Inside the consultation room, she squeezed her eyes shut for a moment. She could easily retreat into her usual demeanor, putting on a brave face, burying her fears under layers of responsibility. But she realized that wasn't the path she wanted to tread anymore. She wanted to do more than just survive. As the nurse started discussing the next steps for her mother's treatment, Sarah forced herself to listen closely, but her thoughts kept drifting. She pictured Jake's face and how, against all odds, she had found a moment of connection with him. "Sarah?" The nurse's voice pulled her back. "What?" Sorry. Sarah shook her head, embarrassed she'd been zoning out. "Can we go over that last part again?" After the meeting, Sarah's mind reeled. The weight of the medical bills was heavy, but so was the thought of Jake's offer. She stepped out of the room and saw him leaning against the wall, waiting. For her, suddenly, she felt flooded with warmth. His presence was a grounding force in the midst of her storm, and the thought of sharing her struggles no longer felt like a burden. "Hey," Jake greeted, a soft smile painting his features. "How was it?" "Fine," she replied a bit too quickly. "Just overwhelming. But I was thinking." She paused, wanting to capture the moment's significance. "I think I might really need some help." His eyes brightened, and she knew right then that she had made the right choice. "Of course," he replied. "Let us figure it out together. Whatever you need." She took a breath, preparing to navigate this new territory with him. But as they began to talk, another call came in for Sarah. One she knew would take her right back into the realm of responsibilities that seemed endless. With a sigh, she glanced at Jake, feeling that familiar pang of frustration mixed with anxiety. "I'm really sorry, but I need to take this." "Go ahead," he encouraged, his voice steady and kind. "I'll be right here when you're done." As she stepped away, her heart fluttered with anticipation and anxiety, wondering what their connection could bloom into if she allowed herself the chance. But behind that uncertainty lay a looming question. What could he possibly offer that the world hadn't already taken away? Sarah felt hopeful but wary. The answer was still unclear, a delicate thread hanging in the balance, and as she faced the call, she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever happened next might change everything. The call pulled Sarah back to the reality she often tried to escape. The chirping ring felt sharp against the ambient noise of medical machinery and hurried footsteps. She answered, putting on her professional tone, but the tension in her shoulders didn't dissipate. "Sarah here," she stated, forcing a smile even though the weight of everything loomed over her like dark clouds. "Hi, Sarah," came the clipped response. "This is Kelly from billing. We need to discuss your mother's account today." The mention of bills like stones in her gut. She felt the world narrowing down to that single moment, the walls closing in as the call dragged on. Each word Kelly spoke blurred in her mind as she tried to focus, the gnawing worry about her family's financial struggle gnashing at her heart. I understand," Sarah stammered, trying to keep calm. "Can we discuss a payment plan?" Kelly's response was mechanical, filled with corporate jargon that felt as remote as the stars. Sarah's fingers tightened around her phone, grounding her. Just then, she caught a glimpse of Jake through the consultation room's window. He smiled at her, his eyes warm and understanding. The sight of him was a balm to her frayed nerves. "Are you still there?" Kelly's voice cut through, making her jump back to reality. "Sure, let us continue," Sarah said, pushing back the wave of anxiety threatening to crash over her. She took a breath and focused on what was being said, though thoughts of Jake kept flooding her mind, a reminder of the hope and warmth he offered. As the call dragged on, Sarah's frustration mixed with despair. The prospect of her mother's treatment felt like a mountain. Finally, she ended the call, hanging up with a deep sigh. "Unbelievable," she muttered to herself, feeling the walls of her world tighten once again. Jake approached, concern flickering across his face. "Everything okay?" His voice was low, a sounding board for her worries. "Not really," she confessed, the words tumbling out. "It's just overwhelming. The bills, the responsibilities, sometimes it feels like too much." He stepped closer, his expression softening. Maybe you don't have to carry it all alone. She glanced at him, their eyes locking for a moment, and in that small silence, she found an unexpected sanctuary. I want to believe that, she said softly. But it's hard to know where to turn, you know? I get it, Jake replied. Sometimes the strongest thing to do is ask for help. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Her heart raced. Could she really lean on someone? The thought of vulnerability was both exhilarating and terrifying. But what if I let you down? She questioned, her voice barely above a whisper. What if this connection doesn't last? Then we'll cross that bridge when we get there, he said reassuringly, a gentle smile on his lips. But for now, let us just take it one step at a time. You're not alone, Sarah. His confidence infused her with a sense of possibility she hadn't felt in years. The burden began to feel a little lighter, as if sharing her fears could lessen their weight. Okay, she breathed, half in disbelief. You're right. I'll try. As they stood together in the busy hallway, a flicker of optimism ignited within her. Maybe she could lean on him after all. Maybe she didn't have to brave this storm alone. But then, just as quickly as that thought surfaced, doubt crept back in, dark and heavy. What would it mean to let him in? Resolute, she met his gaze. What if things get complicated? Jake leaned in slightly, his voice soft yet firm. Life is complicated, Sarah. It's all about how we choose to navigate it. With those words hanging in the air, she knew this was just the beginning. And as she pondered their tentative alliance, one question loomed above all others: was she ready to embrace the possibility of change? Jake's presence, a beacon amid her uncertainty, kept her grounded. But what lay ahead could either strengthen their bond or unravel it entirely. Would she take the leap? The hospital air felt tight around Sarah as she processed Jake's words. She could feel her pulse quickening. He was right, life was complicated. But where did that leave her, lost in the storm of her responsibilities and fears? Do you want to grab a coffee? Talk things over a bit? Jake offered, breaking her thoughts. His voice had a soothing cadence, like waves lapping gently at the shore. Yeah, that sounds good, she replied, surprised by her own eagerness. Grabbing coffee felt normal, somehow grounding. They slipped away from the bustling hall, the sounds fading into a muffled background as they settled at a small table in the hospital cafeteria. The aroma of brewing coffee permeated the air, creating a cozy atmosphere. What do you think? He asked, watching her closely, those warm eyes studying her as if he could see the currents of her worry. What's weighing on your mind? Sarah took a sip of her coffee, the warmth spreading through her. She felt a little bold, encouraged by Jake's presence. It's just everything is such a mess. My mom's health, the bills piling up. It's hard to even breathe sometimes. Her voice wavered, and she felt a prickle of tears. Jake nodded, his expression serious yet compassionate. I can't imagine how tough that must be. But you have to remember, you're stronger than you think. Reaching out for help is part of that strength. As his words settled in, a flood of vulnerability washed over her, and she barely managed to hold back the wave of emotions bubbling at the surface. But what if I fail? The thought sat heavy on her heart. Failure is part of life, he said, a kind smile tugging at his lips. What matters is how you get back up. We all stumble, but it's the support we offer each other that helps us stand tall again. For a moment, Sarah felt a sense of relief, a flicker of hope that fueled her determination to face her fears head-on. Maybe letting him in wouldn't mean chaos, maybe it would lead somewhere brighter. Can I ask you something? She said, almost hesitantly. Why do you care so much? I mean, I'm just me. Jake paused, his gaze steady. Because I see you. I see someone who's carrying a heavy load, and I don't think you should have to do it alone. Plus, knowing your struggle makes me want to help. Everyone deserves that kind of support. The sincerity in his words struck her. It felt like he was peeling back her layers, revealing parts she hadn't allowed herself to acknowledge. I should be the strong one, she nearly whispered, still grappling with her own expectations and imposed roles. Strength isn't just about standing tall on your own, he replied. Sometimes, it's about leaning on someone else. Accepting that it's okay to be human. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling lighter with each word exchanged. Maybe this was the beginning of something that could transform her chaotic life into one filled with support and understanding. Thank you, Jake, she finally said, a genuine smile breaking across her face, the warmth of connection between them palpable. I really mean it. Just then, commotion erupted in the cafeteria as an announcement blared over the intercom. There was a code blue in one of the critical care units. Sarah's heart raced again as the world came rushing back, the urgency gnawing at her. Sounds serious, Jake murmured, concern flaring in his eyes. Yes, it is. My mom is in that unit. What if panic bubbled within her, threatening to spiral out of control? Before she could finish, Jake reached across the table and took her hand. Hey, let us take a step back. We can't predict everything, but we can face it together, okay? His grip felt solid and steady, anchoring her amidst the chaos. Uncertainty still loomed, shadowing her thoughts. But as they stood up to navigate through the crowd, she found herself holding on to that flicker of hope. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead. As they approached the unit, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Could facing her fears alongside Jake truly lead to a new beginning? With that question echoing in her mind, she couldn't shake the apprehension brewing in her chest. Was this the moment that would alter the course of her life forever? The hallway to the critical care unit was bustling, a stark contrast to the earlier calmness over coffee. Nurses moved quickly, their faces a mix of focus and urgency. Sarah's stomach twisted in knots as she pushed through the crowd, Jake close behind, a steady presence that made her feel just a bit stronger. Just breathe, he whispered softly, enough for only her to hear. His fingers brushed against hers, and with each step they took together, she could feel the warmth of his support grounding her. As they reached the glass doors of the unit, Sarah's heart raced again. She hesitated, fear gripping her throat. What if the words clung to the edge of her lips, unspoken terror threatening to spill forth? Jake squeezed her hand tighter. Whatever happens, Sarah, I'm here with you. You're not alone. His steadiness pushed her forward, and she stepped through the doors. The sterile air was a stark reminder of the reality they faced. Machines beeped rhythmically, while medical staff moved with the precision of a well-oiled machine. The sight of her mom, lying weakly among the tubes and lights, was enough to send a fresh wave of panic crashing over her. Mom! Sarah rushed forward, her breath quickening. She felt Jake's arm slip around her shoulder, an unspoken promise of solidarity. Shoo, it's okay. Talk to her, he urged gently. Sarah knelt beside the bed, her heart breaking as she took in her mother's pale face, the caring touch of the hospital's harsh reality. Mom, it's me. I'm here. Her voice quivered, threatening to falter as tears pooled in her eyes. The machines beeped in response, a rhythmic reminder of the fragility of life. Sarah took a deep breath, the scent of antiseptic mixing with the faint floral aroma of her mother's favorite perfume. Memories surged, her mom laughing during summer picnics, cheering during baseball games, and teaching her to ride a bike. Hope flickered within her, intertwining with desperation. With Jake at her side, she felt something shift deep within. You've always been strong, Mom. I need you to fight for me now, she whispered, willing her mom to hear her words. Just then, her mother's eyelids fluttered open, revealing a glimpse of recognition. Sarah, her whisper was fragile, but it ignited a spark of hope in Sarah's heart. I'm right here, she cried, both joy and sorrow shimmering in her voice. The moment was small, yet monumental. Life was delicate but resplendent in its fight. Things are going to be okay, Jake reassured quietly, watching the scene unfold with compassionate eyes. He understood the weight of the moment, and his presence was a balm to her aching heart. Suddenly, a commotion erupted beyond the bed. A doctor hurried in, his face taut with urgency. "We need to prepare for a procedure," he announced. "Family must wait outside." Sarah's heart sank while dread washed over her. "No. I want to stay," she protested, fear spiking. Jake leaned closer. "You need to give them space. They'll do everything they can," he soothed, his voice a steady current in her sea of confusion. "Trust me," he added, his eyes holding hers firmly, grounding her even amid turmoil. It was a moment of realization for Sarah. In chaos, she found a flicker of hope, her mother's strength, the support she had from Jake, and the love that tethered it all together. With a heavy heart, she nodded. "Okay. But I don't want to leave," she said, her voice trembling. "You won't have to. I promise I'll be right here with you," Jake said softly, taking her hand again. As they stepped back into the hallway, uncertainty loomed like a dark cloud. Sarah felt a rush of raw emotion but also a spark of strength igniting within her. Could this be the moment that forever altered her destiny? Knowing what was at stake, she stood on the edge of something profound. Was she ready to face not only her fears but also embrace the future that lay ahead? As they found a quiet corner, the weight of the world still pressed upon her, but Jake's unwavering presence felt like an anchor. Sarah took a deep breath, her heart beating wildly. Could she truly navigate this storm with him by her side? And as they prepared for what was to come, a single thought resonated deep within her. Perhaps this was not just about survival but about finding a path toward healing together. The waiting room felt like a different world, stretching into a realm of uncertainty. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself, hugging her thoughts as tightly as she could. Jake settled beside her, the weight of silence enveloping them. She could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears, a metronome to the chaos simmering just beyond those glass doors where her mother was. "Do you think she'll be okay?" Sarah whispered, almost afraid to articulate the fear that gnawed at her insides. Jake turned to her, his eyes earnest and steady. "I have faith in her strength. She's a fighter. Just like you." His words, simple yet full of conviction, calmed her racing thoughts. If only a little. They sat together, witnessing the world flit by. Families gathered, some with laughter, others steeped in silence, eyes hidden behind worry. The sights and sounds felt too big to grasp. Each time the doors swung open, Sarah's heart flew toward them, praying for good news only to crash back into the reality of waiting. "I don't know how people cope with this," she murmured, biting her lip to hold back fresh tears. "It's hard. But remember, you're not alone in this. Not now. Not ever." Jake's grip on her hand tightened. He didn't let go, grounding her in the overwhelming storm of emotions. Time passed in a blur. Mundane conversations and the clatter of plastic chairs filled the air, yet all that resonated with Sarah was the relentless noise in her mind. Every minute felt like an hour. Just when Sarah felt she might crack under the pressure, a doctor stepped into the waiting room. "Sarah Thompson?" The doctor called out, scanning the sea of anxious faces. Instinctively, Sarah shot to her feet, her heart lunging forward. "That's me," she replied, her voice wavering. "Your mother is out of surgery. She's stable, but she requires monitoring. You can see her now, but just for a few minutes." The doctor's voice was calm, but his eyes held an urgency that sent a chill down her spine. Can I touch her?" Sarah asked, unsure of what she would find behind that sterile curtain. "Of course," he said, a gentle nod signaling that the touch was allowed, maybe even necessary. The doctor led them back through the maze of white walls and flickering fluorescent lights. With each step, Sarah felt the tension in her chest ease slightly. Jake followed closely, his presence offering reassurance. When they reached the bed, Sarah felt her breath hitch once again. Her mother lay there, looking so small against the expansive hospital bed. The machines hummed softly, measuring her breath, but her pale face seemed to glow with a newfound peace. "Mom?" Sarah's voice broke, her heart full of cautious hope. Her mother's eyes fluttered again, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. "Sarah, you're here," she whispered, barely above a murmur, yet it was music to Sarah's ears. "I'm here, Mom." "I'm right here," she replied, tears spilling down her cheeks. With a trembling hand, she reached out to grasp her mother's fingers, feeling the warmth radiate beneath her touch. "I was so scared," her mother breathed, tears pooling in her own eyes. "But I felt you with me." "Always," Sarah vowed. In that moment, nothing else mattered. Jake stood slightly to the side, a watchful guardian, respecting the space between them but also remaining close enough to be a silent support. "Take all the time you need," he said softly, a hint of a smile on his face as he gazed at the tender display of love between mother and daughter. Sarah's spirit soared in that fragile moment. She leaned in, resting her cheek on her mother's hand, overwhelmed with a myriad of emotions, relief, gratitude, love, but just as they began finding solace, the monitor beeped and flashed an alarming red light. Nurses rushed into the room, their movements swift and coordinated. The abruptness was palpable, the atmosphere shifting instantly. "Get the crash cart!" one nurse shouted as the others shifted into high gear. Panic surged through Sarah's veins as she sprang to her feet, fear tightening around her throat. "What's happening?" she cried out, her heart racing as dread clawed at her. Jake moved closer, standing protectively behind her. "Stay back, Sarah," he urged gently, but the urgency in the air had already captured her full attention. Was her mother truly fighting for her life once again? As chaos erupted, Sarah felt the world closing in. Time slowed, and every heartbeat echoed her escalating fear. In that whirlwind of uncertainty, it was Jake who stepped closer, creating a barrier of calm against the storm raging within her. "Breathe," he murmured, his voice a steady anchor. "You're not alone. Stay with me." She clung to his words, each one a lifeline against the tide of anxiety. The nurses worked with fierce precision, each movement choreographed in response to the alarm flashing like a beacon of distress. But they were doing their job, there was hope hidden in their urgency. Sarah's heart raced, memories flooding her mind, the laughter, the shared moments, the lessons her mother taught her. "Don't leave me, Mom," she whispered, her voice barely a fragment of sound. "You've taught me to be strong. Fight." And just like that, the beeping settled into a rhythm once more, a tiny but powerful sense of restoration sweeping through the room. The nurses stepped back, breathless yet determined, as the doctor spoke in measured tones. "We've stabilized her. It's going to take time, but she's still with us." Relief washed over Sarah, flooding her senses. She turned to Jake, who watched her with unadulterated empathy. In that moment, clarity blossomed in her heart. Vulnerability didn't equate to weakness, allowing others to help her didn't strip away her strength, it amplified it. "Thank you," Sarah mouthed to Jake, knowing he didn't need to hear the words, yet feeling they were imperative. His support anchored her. In times of despair, a hand to hold made the darkness just a little bit lighter. As the flurry of activity slowly quieted, Sarah nestled back beside her mother and threaded their fingers together. Some part of her knew that this was just the beginning of her journey. The path ahead was still rocky, fraught with hurdles. But now, she believed it was a journey she wouldn't travel alone. Jake's presence infused her with a sense of safety and belonging, stirring in her a longing for connection she never quite allowed herself to grasp. That night dragged into dawn, but the golden rays that infiltrated her mother's hospital room brought new hope. With Jake by her side, her worries felt less burdensome, and anticipation brewed within. As the doctor entered to share updates, Sarah felt fortified. She understood now that life would not always be pristine or simple. Life would be a patchwork of connections, love, and support. "I want to get to know you better, Sarah," Jake said, and the sincerity danced in his eyes. "Your story matters to me." Each part of it. He leaned closer, and Sarah felt a warmth grow inside of her, one full of the potential for understanding and partnership. "Yes, I want that too," she replied, her voice steady. "I want to share everything, my hopes, fears, and maybe even dreams I've tucked away." His response was the softest smile, bright enough to chase away lingering shadows and light a path forward. In that shared glance, a promise ignited, intertwining their journeys like the rain that nourished the blooming flowers outside. "Then let us face it all together," Jake countered gently. "One step at a time." As the days turned into weeks, their connection flourished. They shared ice cream with Lily, laughter echoed through mundane chores, and small moments of joy stitched comfort into their lives. Sarah found herself dreaming of a future where she could thrive, not merely survive, a future where love and community broke barriers tied up in roles and judgments. Standing again beneath the dripping branches of a tree outside the hospital, Sarah looked at Jake, his gaze filled with understanding. "You changed everything," she said quietly, her heart swelling with gratitude. What began as chaos flourished into hope. The playful drizzle danced around them, washing away remnants of doubt and giving birth to new beginnings. With their arms intertwined, they stepped away from trepidations, ready to embrace whatever awaited on their journey. With Mia's laughter echoing in the distance and the possibility of love hanging like tender dew, Sarah realized she had finally taken flight. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the realization that love has the power not only to transform lives but to illuminate paths once clouded in darkness. As the sunlight broke through the clouds, she understood that even the most unexpected encounters could yield incredible transitions. They could mend hearts, uplift spirits, and bridge the gap between worlds once thought irreconcilable. In the cascade of rain, now shimmering with sunlit possibilities, they took their first steps toward a future painted with resilience, hope, and joyous love. Now is your chance to keep the momentum going. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, showing your appreciation for heartfelt transformations. Comment below and tell us your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you, and most importantly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation, because love and support are powerful, and together, we grow stronger. Don't wait not even one more second. Join the movement today.